In my discussions with countless folks over the years in regards to creating Helix presets, one of the most common mistakes that I see made is the misuse of compression. Now, compression is a very popular tool used by guitar players and recording engineers, and it's an incredibly powerful tool, but it can also be an incredibly damaging tool if used incorrectly. Folks who follow my channel know that I oftentimes do utilize compression, but oftentimes, almost always, in an extremely subtle manner. What is one common mistake that folks can very easily make that could turn compression from a real wonderful tool to use in a preset to almost unknowingly destroying their tone? Well, we're going to talk about that today, and I hope with the tip I give you today that this is going to help you to fine-tune and tweak your presets to be absolutely perfect and get you past this point where maybe you feel compression is more of a problem than it is a positive. So without further ado, we're going to dive right in today and get into this number one compression tip that I have for everyone. All right, so here we are over in Helix Native, which I'm going to use Native today for a very particular reason. And that reason is that we're going to be able to see the gain reduction meters up here on the compressors that I have in here. You'll notice that I have a deluxe comp at the beginning of the chain. It's turned off right now. And we have a LA Studio comp at the end, which is something that I really enjoy utilizing in pretty much all of my presets. But we're going to talk about one particular thing that we really have to be careful of, whether we're using an end chain compressor or a beginning of the chain compressor. It's something that's going to be very important, can make or break whether we are getting what we want from our compression. Now, all I've done here is thrown together a very, very simple little preset just for demo purposes. I have a Matchstick Channel 2 with these settings, going into 212 Match G25 cab with these settings. I have my little low and high shelf on just to kind of mimic what I would normally be doing. I have a little tiny bit of dynamic ambience reverb. So let's take a look at this compressor at the end. Let's say I dial it in with these settings, and I'm playing my Sir Classic T single coil pickups on this, not super high output. And I have this dialed in so that watch what happens on the gain reduction here. So you can see it, maybe it looks like it's moving a lot, but if you notice here, this is just 3 dB of gain reduction, minus 3 dB. So really when I'm hitting this, I'm getting for between maybe 1 and 1.5 dB of gain reduction, which is usually my goal when utilizing the end of the chain compressor with this LA Studio comp. It just adds a little bit of glue and squish to that sound. Now here's the problem. Some people come in, they'll set that and they'll go, oh, I've got that perfect. I'm getting just what I want, maybe a dB and a half. Now we come over here to our Matchstick Channel 2 amp and we notice the channel volume's on 7. And maybe some folks come in here and say, you know what? I want to actually turn my channel volume up here on maybe a boost for a solo and we engage snapshots or whatever the reason might be. But watch what happens when I just crank this up to 10 now. We come back over, obviously our preset's going to be a little bit louder, but we come back over here and now let's take a look at this gain reduction meter with the same settings on my guitar. Now you may think that's not a problem. And if you like what you're hearing, then great and wonderful, off you go. But this has really changed the behavior of the compressor. Because we're hitting the front of the compressor with more signal, then the threshold where this kicks in has now been surpassed by a lot more, and this is going to squash down on our sound a lot more. It may or may not be what you want. If you realize this and it's what you want, then there's nothing else you need to do, but we need to be aware of this. If we were going for this 1 to 1.5 dB of gain reduction, and all of a sudden we come over here, crank up our channel volume to get more level out of our preset, we have to be aware that we've also altered the behavior of the compressor. So instead of doing that, we could just come to the level control on the compressor and turn it up, because that's going to be after the compressor. I could turn it up here. For instance, if I come back over here, set this to 7 where we had it, so we get the same behavior on the compressor. I could turn up my preset here. without affecting the behavior of the compressor, because this is post compression. So, or we could use the end block here and just turn the overall level up after the compressor. But we have to keep in mind that anything we do level wise to send more level into a compressor, it's going to change the behavior of how that compressor works with peak reduction. Now, what could we do if we did come over here and move that up to 10 and we're getting far too much gain reduction? We would have to come to our peak reduction over here and lower this down so that we're back to a place where we're getting what we want from it. You know, somewhere in there. So you see, we have to play around with this, but we just want to be aware that whatever we send into a compressor, it is going to affect how much compression we get and therefore affect the behavior and the sound. And maybe that's why when you make some tweaks that you find that, oh man, this compressor is just ruining things, because we haven't taken into account that we're actually changing the behavior of the compressor with the amount of signal we're sending into it. So that goes for any of these. If I boosted my level from the reverb that's before the compressor, it doesn't matter where that boost is coming from. It's just that if it is before the compressor going into it, then we're going to change that behavior. Whether that's what you want or not is not the point. The point being that we have to be aware that we are changing the behavior of the compressor. Now, what about this? We'll turn that one off. Now, what about this deluxe compressor at the beginning? So let's say I have this setup, no more compression at the end. Now, this is obviously before the amp. So anything I do to the amp here as far as level is not going to affect what's going on with this compressor. But what could? Let's take a look here and look at the gain reduction I have. Same sort of thing. Maybe I'm getting, if I hit really hard, 4 or 5 dB of gain reduction, that's fine. It doesn't really matter for this. We could change that by adjusting our threshold. Right, let's go there around -23. You can see it's just kind of kicking in just a little bit. So if that's the way you wanted to work, and let's bring this back to -25 just so we get those meters moving a little bit more. So if I've dialed it in carefully and I go, oh, it's perfect, the preset's great, now I'm going to switch guitars. So this guitar, I would say, has fairly low output pickups. Let me switch to a guitar that I have that has much higher output pickups. So now I'm playing my incredible red Vigier Excalibur that has a DiMarzio tone zone pickup in here, a much higher output pickup. So let's say I have my preset, I've set it up, everything's working good, but I used my Tele or my Strat or something with lower output pickups to dial in my compression. As soon as I grab this guitar, we were getting, you know, the peak reduction meter moving somewhere around here, 2 or 3 dB of gain reduction. Now I'll go to the bridge pickup on this with the tone zone, and I'm just going to play the same. Watch what happens to the gain reduction. Now we see we can sometimes have it peaking up around -6, 7, even 8 dB of gain reduction. It's going to change the feel and the sound of our preset. So again, how do we deal with this? Well, it either bothers you or it doesn't. Maybe you want it to behave like that. But again, just being aware that when we grab a guitar with higher output pickups, it's going to hit the front of whatever settings we have on that compressor harder. And this threshold is going to be surpassed earlier. Therefore, it's going to clamp down and give us more compression. So we would have to adjust this threshold. So let's see how much we have to adjust it to get it to the point we were at before. And you can see there we have to move it quite a bit. So we would have to make that change. Now, there's a bunch of ways we could do that. We could either utilize snapshots or an expression pedal or one of the many ways we have to be able to alter these settings per guitar, or we can just leave it if it's not bothering us. But I just wanted folks to be aware of what is actually going on with compression so they know that they have to watch out for this potential problem. All right, so there you have it. You know, I know a lot of folks who've utilized compression over the years are very well aware of this issue, but I know from talking to many folks over the years, a lot of folks are very confused with how compression works and are kind of unaware that these problems can exist. So I think that's a very important topic to cover just from some questions I've had recently, and I want to do a quick video about that. So I hope that that helps you. Just be mindful of how to dial in your compression and any other changes you make before the compressor, whether it's changing the guitar or the level of any other block before for it, it is going to or can potentially dramatically affect how your compressor is acting, and therefore maybe even the results you're looking for. So we want to be careful of that. Today, I'm going to leave you with the demo video for my Line 6 Marketplace Divided Duo Ultimate preset, one of my faves. I really love utilizing this preset. I hope you like it too, and I hope you enjoy the music on the way out. This is the various snapshots of that preset used together in a mix over a full drum and bass rhythm section and layered with other guitars. And I'll have the link below to that preset as well as all my other presets if you want to go take a look at the Line 6 Marketplace and help support my channel. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Please like the video, share it with anybody you think would get some use or enjoyment out of watching it. Also, please subscribe to the channel, hit the little bell notification to get notified when I put new content out. I'll be back very, very soon with some more. Thank you guys again so much for sharing your time with me. Ciao for now.